Hallo, herzlich willkommen. Heute präsentiere ich euch Michael Stewart, ein fantastischer, wirklich fantastischer Tantra Hatha Yoga Lehrer, und wir werden Englisch sprechen. Aber wenn ihr Fragen habt, schickt uns eine Mail, die beantworten wir selbstverständlich auf Deutsch. Michael ist oft bei uns, in der Regel im Sommer, und ihr könnt immer alle Infos über ihn bei uns bekommen. Wir leiten auch gerne Mails weiter. So Michael, I just told your universe that you're in Berlin now at our studio, and that you are a Tantric Hatha Yogi. Can you tell us what that means to you?
I can. First of all, thank you all for joining us. The Hatha Yogi is somebody who uses the practices of Hatha Yoga, which would employ pranayam, mantras, mudras, bandhas, all together. And when you're a tantrika, you're taking these practices and you're infusing them into one practice, so you are able to access the subtleties that we are made of. What tends to happen as a Hatha Yogi sometimes is these practices are done separately. As a Tantrika, we put them together and infuse ourselves with the power of these practices.
Sounds very intense.
Depends what intense means. What it is certainly a very quick way to go inside.
That, on the other hand, sounds very effective. I like that.
Yes. In fact, the reason I find it most effective today is because the world we live in doesn't allow us a lot of time to do any kind of practice.
Yeah.
So when you have the elements of a practice and you're able to put them together in a limited amount of time and still achieve the maximum benefits of the practice, which ultimately are to come to yourself in this world and be effective in this world, this is the way.
Sounds fantastic. Actually, I've experienced it already, and it's strong.
I feel that in all practices, a preparation is necessary, and one would find it quite strong if they didn't do the necessary preparations. I've come to this practice after over a 20-year practice of yoga. So I think it's quite important to say to everybody that practice what you know, and when the time is right, you will come to this practice.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. That's very true, really, very true. And your Tantric background, can you tell us a little bit about Tantric philosophy?
Yes. Primary element that is necessary is that we believe that God exists. Because if we don't believe that God exists, then we are not Tantrikas.
Yeah.
This is the part that a lot of people who practice Tantra choose to leave out. Just like they choose to practice yoga without spirituality, it's not possible. So you cannot be a Tantrika and not believe that God exists.
The word that must be told, that must be said,
yes.
Say it.
Yes, the
like
word
this.
that most people are afraid of, we use it very freely because God exists. I am here, as are you. Here's the proof. So this is the basis of Tantra. Now, the different schools of Tantra have different ways of approaching the divine. The school and the form of study that I'm in is in the Shakta tradition. The Shaktas believe in the divine feminine. And the divine feminine works in this way. I'll give you a little example. The Tantrikas of the north of India believe Shiva is all, and the Tantrikas of the south believe that Shakti is all. Now what happens in the Rajanika tradition that I study in and follow is together they are all. So you cannot have one without the other. But when we have a discussion with the Tantrikas of the North who believe that Shiva is all, we know this, that Shiva is pure consciousness. Nothing exists in that state of pure consciousness. It just is. So for us to all be here, we need Shakti, the divine feminine, to infuse pure consciousness, and then creation happens. So we feel, the Shaktas feel that the divine feminine moves things. Mm-hmm. And the Tantrikas of the North say, well, if there's nothing to move, there's nothing to move. So Shiva has to be there. This is why the Rajanikas, the tradition that I follow, say, together is the whole. So again, this is how we connect back to Hatha Yoga. Mm-hmm. Because Hatha Yoga is talking about two very powerful energies, Ha-Ta, the outward, external, doing, solar, masculine form of energy, and the internal, lunar, feminine, introspective form, and together we're able to see the whole. This is how Tantra and Hatha are connected. In fact, Hatha came out of Tantra because we, as an evolving species, came to a point where the external world was becoming more evident to us. The subtle world internally was becoming less evident to us. So there were two great Tantric scholars, saints, rishis, call them what you like, who recognized this in our evolution and said, okay, how do we go back to our subtle experience through the gross form? If we recognize this, then perhaps we can go back into the subtle experience. So Hatha Yoga was then born. What has then happened over time, Hatha Yoga has gone off and become this practice without roots.
So a Tantrika recognizes the roots and really wants to go back to the roots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, we're not living in the past, we're living in the present.
Yeah.
So I just want to come back to Tantric Hatha Yoga as a practice being very, very powerful and of the time. Because, as I said before, we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
The world we're living in is moving at an exponential rate. So to come to this subtle understanding, we need to take the time we have, put the elements together, infuse it, go to our subtle experience, and then go back to that word that we're mostly afraid of, God.
Michael, this is a wonderful last word. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste.